we have to look at the fact that we lose 90 people a day from gun violence. This has gone on too long, and it's time the entire country stood up against the NRA. The majority of our country supports background checks, and even the majority of gun owners do.
Gun control, as you'd imagine, a big topic at the Democratic debate on CNN last night, even though it hardly came up in the two prior Republican debates. Now, Hillary Clinton is right about background checks if you believe the polls on this one, and the numbers pretty overwhelming. But even in the wake of yet more mass shootings, D.C. has not been able to do anything to tighten gun laws. Now, Congresswoman, I can save a lot of time. You've been vocal about the need for gun control well before the Sandy Hooks of the world here, and you've been vocal since. So the fact is, you agree with the two of us that we got a big problem in this country, and it's only getting worse, not better. That said, 90% of Americans can't even agree if the sun comes up, but they agree that we need universal background checks. But Congress, that we saw in the aftermath of Sandy Hook, even with all the political pressure, even with the tone-deaf NRA statement in the aftermath of it, still couldn't get anything done. Should we have any realistic optimism that it's going to be any different this time? I've heard the words from the president. I heard what I heard last night at the debate. But why should we think, the way that D.C. is constructed right now and the power of the NRA, that anything will really be any different?
First of all, by way of background, and I think it's important for those who did not watch the debate, nothing is happening in this Congress. The Republicans voted 151 to close down the government. 151 Republicans voted to close down the government. We have to raise the debt ceiling. We have to get appropriations bills through. We have to fund education, a whole range of issues that are part of the appropriations process. And as you know, I'm the ranking member. They can't do anything. Now they're talking about Paul Ryan.
No, I'll come back to him. But my question is, could you get every Democrat to come on board? And some of the Democrats, frankly, did not come on board the last time around.
A small percentage.
Right, but can you get every Democrat and find 30 or 40 Republicans to agree on just a background check? Could that pass?
Shall I tell you what was voted down in the Appropriations Committee? It was my amendment to do research, just to do research on gun control, to see why the numbers are increasing, why we have more deaths here from guns than any other place in the world. That was voted down by the Republicans. It's hard to believe the climate that's going on. And I thought after Newtown we would get it done. Now Oregon, the junior college or the community college, it's hard for me to believe, but I can't be optimistic with these Republicans. And what's sad is, and I know we're going to talk about it later, there are only 30 members, Republicans, in that Freedom Caucus, yet they get 151 votes to close down the government. They can't agree on a speaker. They can't agree on raising the debt ceiling.
I won't ask you to name names, but I gotta think, and some of your colleagues have given me anecdotal stories that after Newtown, and after that idiot came out and gave the statements that he did and dragged poor Asa Hutchinson with the comments that he did after it, that a lot of them turned around and said, this is nuts. Maybe not the assault weapons ban, maybe not the ammo clips and all that, but we can do background checks to keep crazies or guys with restraining orders from getting guns. Was there a window that it could have gotten done? No?
No. And let me
Did we wait too long?
Let me tell you why. It's not just the NRA. It's these big PACs out there. It's the Citizens United decision from the Supreme Court. It's that in some of these districts where the Freedom Caucus members live or others who vote similarly, there are PACs out there who are ready to put up another vote, another candidate, and have a primary vote. So it's dysfunctional, and I
sure hope it changes.
So
you think it would have been if you found the safest Republican seats in the purple states here, right? Are there 30 or 40 Republicans who wouldn't have lost their jobs, you think, if they voted yes?
30 or 40, but the problem is it's not functioning. We can't get any legislation through. If we don't lift the sequester, if we don't have numbers for these bills, they're going to shut
Okay.
down the government
So
in
we
December.
beg the question, what do we do different? How are we not sitting here a year from now with there's 10 other mass shootings and we just wring our hands and have the same flippant conversation? What changes? Does it have to be the president? He's not running for another re-election. Does somebody like Bloomberg and 5 other guys like him have to drop a couple $100 million apiece here to try and blanket every airwave with it? How does it change?
I think the president has to get on that TV or radio every single day, as we do, Nancy Pelosi and many of us, talk about gun control. How can we live in the United States of America, look up at the Capitol dome, say that we're the beacon to the world, yet we can't put in place even a serious background check?
But isn't there a risk that having the president be the front person for this might do
Or
more
Bloomberg,
harm
right.
than good? Only because you know as well as anybody there are millions of Americans out there whose knee-jerk reaction to anything the president proposes is going to be to oppose it.
Well, in the Congress, we have a caucus. Almost everyone in our Democratic caucus is supportive. We're going to be introducing gun legislation on a regular
what
basis.
we're both saying is, today, a ruling came down this week with those 2 cops. You show 2 cops who are victims of gun violence, or the police chief in Jersey City who lost 2 of his guys here because
Yonkers, wasn't
right,
this
absolutely
athlete?
right.
The pitcher.
If you
The
see
picture.
cops, you see military guys coming out there. I think you resonate more with the people you have to, whose minds you have to
Richard,
change.
why did I hear the sheriff? Did you hear him, the sheriff in Oregon?
Yes.
After this happened, he said,
Yeah.
and they really pushed him, and he kept saying, I support the NRA position.
Yep.
I mean,
But most cops, if you listen to the Fraternal Order of Police,
Correct.
most police chiefs do support background checks. They do support, they're trying to crack down on straw sales. They do have what 90% of Americans want. This isn't some liberal bleeding heart stuff. 90% of Americans want
want
this.
background checks.
All right, finally, before I let you go, you have any idea who's going to be the next speaker? Only because I keep hearing they're begging Ryan to come, but it doesn't seem like he wants his job of herding cats if you paid him.
By the way, you might have heard me say this before. Paul Ryan and I are good friends. I call him Sonny Boy. You're wrong, wrong, wrong. He calls me Mom. And I don't think he wants the job. But you never know.
The idea that he's called too left is bizarre, isn't it?
And remember, he still wants to block grant Medicaid and cut it to the states. He still wants to turn Medicare into a voucher program, so that he's too left for that crowd in the Freedom Caucus is beyond me.
Are you any more optimistic that the next year, you know the public is just, they've had it with Washington. Are you any more optimistic that more stuff's going to get done? That,
No.
that we might have come close to a tipping point?
In an election year?
Look, when
A guy can dream.
Paul Ryan and Patty Murray put together this committee, I was on it with Tom Cole, who's another regional person, and we put a budget together. It wasn't the greatest budget. I would have made it a little different, more money in education, Head Start, et cetera, but at least it happened. If we don't get this done before the beginning of November, the Appropriations Committee, which I'm in charge of in the House, can't do our work. They're going to shut down the government. I mean, it's hard. It's a nightmare. I cannot believe that people who are elected to serve the people continue to get elected by taking these positions that are not for the good of their community or for the country.
Speaker Boehner did say today he was going to move legislation on the debt limit. I don't know if that was going to be a clean bill on the debt limit, but he's now a short-termer. He's already announced his resignation. He might be able to get through or help out with the budget and the debt limit in a way that he might not be able to do if he was continuing as
You're
Speaker.
right on what's happening now. Their staffs, all of our staffs who are working on the budget, are meeting with the president's staff at the White House, and hopefully they'll be able to work something out.
Well, I'm knocking on Formica, but it's supposed to be wood. I wish you the best of luck. Unfortunately, you got to go back to Washington. But
I never give up. In
yes.
this business, you have to be
Yeah.
an optimist.
Well, get some done on guns. I know you're trying, but it's absolutely nuts. And say hi to Hillary.
By the
for us.
way, the originator of the no research on guns, Jay Dickey, 20 years ago, I remember working with him, says he didn't mean that at all, and he was trying to say he wish he could take it back.
Regrets it now.
Yes.
Regrets it. You hear that?
Congressman Andrew, thank you very much. Now, when we come back, they call him the Sheriff of Albany, and Preet Bharara is now using new tactics to crack down on corruption, and it could yield big returns, but it's also generating its own fair share of controversy.